What's going on, guys? The Kill from right back with you with another video, and this time it's the Eastern Conference playoffs for the NBA. We're going to look at the main headline stories for tonight: the battle between Brooklyn and Indiana for the number 8 seed in the East, and we got the battle for the 3rd and 4th seed in the East between Chicago and Toronto. The games to watch tonight: Charlotte versus Toronto. Charlotte has a 2-1 lead. Orlando vs. Brooklyn. Brooklyn has a 2-0 lead. Indiana vs. Memphis, like I said in my Western Conference playoffs preview. Memphis leads 1-0. Important game for Indiana. And we have Atlanta vs. Chicago. Atlanta leads 2-0. Okay, so Toronto, I have them as favorites. No surprises. They have full squad. They should be playoff ready with the last game of the season. DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry. I see them winning. Brooklyn and Orlando. I have Brooklyn as the favorites, of course. No surprises. Orlando, they've had a pretty good season. I mean, given their last few seasons, they've had a pretty good season this year. But I don't think Brooklyn will lose the opportunity to miss the playoffs this year. So I have Brooklyn winning it, and then we have Indiana versus Memphis. As much as I really want Indiana to be in the playoffs with Paul George coming back, that'll be a really great way to end the season. It's going to be a must-watch game for anybody interested in the Eastern Conference. And we have Atlanta versus Chicago. I have Atlanta favorites, though Chicago can pull off a surprise with Derrick Rose playing. So I have Indiana going into the playoffs over Brooklyn. That means Indiana has to pull off a victory against Memphis, which will be difficult given they're playing on the road, and we're talking about Memphis. Pretty good team. Though Gasol is injured, that might prove helpful for Indiana, so don't count them out. They can pull off an upset. And the results with Chicago and Toronto: if Chicago loses, Chicago gets the number 4 seed and Toronto gets the 3rd seed. If Chicago wins, Chicago gets the 3rd seed, Toronto gets the 4th seed. Okay, and let's look at the playoff pictures in the East. If the playoffs started today: Atlanta versus Indiana, Cleveland versus Boston, Chicago versus Milwaukee, and Toronto versus Washington. Okay. Now, the only thing is that will change about this are Atlanta versus Indiana. That could be either Atlanta versus Indiana or Atlanta versus Brooklyn. And then we got Toronto and Chicago. The main difference could be Chicago could play Washington in the first round, or Toronto could play Milwaukee, or they will just stay the same like it is. Chicago play Milwaukee, Toronto versus Washington. And personally, I would like to see Toronto versus Washington, because if you remember last season, Paul Pierce played Toronto, took him to game, played against Toronto, playing for the Brooklyn Nets, and he took them to 7 games. They won the series, so I would like to see Paul Pierce pulling off another crazy series. That'll be an interesting series to watch. Though at the same time, Chicago versus Washington, that will also be another great series given the rivalry they had last year with Nene and Jimmy Butler. If you guys didn't see that headbutt, you guys better check that out. And that's all for this video. Tune in for my season review for each conference for the West and then the East tomorrow. I'll let you guys know who I think are the best players for the year from each conference, any surprises for the year, and who I think. I'll give you also my Rookie of the Year, my player awards day after tomorrow on Friday. And also, most probably also on Friday, I will give you my first round predictions of the NBA playoffs. Till tomorrow, signing off, Akil Murray, and I'll catch up on my IPL, my cricket videos. That is next on my list. School's getting a bit hectic right now, but I'll make sure to put you guys up there once I finish my work video, okay? Forget sleep. It's always about you guys. Until then, Gilbert Murray signing off. Peace.